We're going to be heading back to the Gulf by taking US 31. Come on, let's go. Alright everyone, today we're going to be doing Southbound US Highway 31, along with US Highway 31W. In this direction of US 31, we're actually going to be seeing some Indiana provincialism. Yes, a state that actually usually does well with control cities is actually being provincial on 31 southbound. And we're being passing by another city named Franklin, this time in the state of Kentucky on 31W. So, let us get started with Southbound US 31.
But first, you're watching TheDerpHog, where I make highways content on all sorts of different topics. If you've been enjoying it, be sure to hit that like button. And if you've been really enjoying it, be sure to smash that subscribe button so you're notified on all future videos. And if you really want to help out the channel, become a member today, where you get custom cool emojis, early access to future videos, along with one free extra request per month. And if you don't want to become a member, you can always just pay $3 for a intersection request in future videos. Those highways will be listed down in the description below, and I'll make sure to shout you out when that video releases. So let's get on with the highway.
As you can see here, this is the map of US Highway 31. As in today's video, we're going to be starting at the Interstate 75 junction just south of Mackinaw City and travel all the way down to Spanish Fort at the junction with US 9098. So with that, I'm talking about southbound US 31. So we begin here on Interstate 75 itself, where we have the exit for 31 being signed for Petoskey and Charlevoix. I mean, you could just have Petoskey by itself here because it is a big major town and is where we meet US 131. But if you had to sign something beyond Petoskey, then I think Charlevoix is an alright choice. But on our first mileage sign, we get Petoskey from a good 32 miles away, with Alonson from 21. And here in Petoskey, we meet one of our children here, US Highway 131, which will actually take you all the way down to Cadillac, Michigan, while we're going to be continuing south towards Charlevoix. But our next mileage time, we actually get Traverse City on the bottom line from 61 miles away, so that is awesome. And here in Traverse City, we're now getting signed for Manistee and Baldwin. I think Baldwin is for M37, while we're going to be the one that's heading towards Manistee, which is a good choice. I mean, you could also throw on Ludington there, but Manistee is still a pretty sizable town. In our next mileage time, we do get Manistee from 56 miles away. And then ways down the road, we actually now get a mention of Muskegon from 112 miles away. That is awesome, and well done. And now we're meeting with US Highway 10, and US 31 and US 10 are going to be concurrent as they head towards the city of Ludington. In our next mileage time, we still get Muskegon from 65 miles away, so they're favoring US 31 here. And US 31 actually doesn't make it to Ludington. US 10 will take you to downtown, and we're now getting signed south for Muskegon, which is a good choice. And here in Muskegon, we meet with the western terminus of Interstate 96, getting signed for Grand Rapids and Lansing, which are great choices. And on Interstate 96 itself, we're now getting signed for Grand Haven and Holland, which are also good choices. In our next mileage time, we actually get a mention of South Bend from 112 miles away, so just like how Muskegon was being signed from 112 miles away. So I'm guessing that 112 is the magic number for 3-line mileage signs in Michigan. And skipping ahead to the Holland area, this is on Business Interstate 196. We're now getting signed for Benton Harbor from 50 miles away. I mean, I get that's where Interstate 196 ends, but you could sign something on Interstate 94. You don't have to sign the terminus of a 3-digit interstate, if not. And then still in the Holland area, we're not going to be merging back into Interstate 196 proper here, and 196 and US 31 are going to be concurrent as they head towards Benton Harbor. And at random interchanges on Interstate 196, we are getting signed for Benton Harbor. I don't really like that choice at all. You could probably do Chicago in favor of Interstate 94. Because if you're going to Detroit, you're probably taking some other road to get there instead of coming all the way down here on Interstate 196. And here we do get a end Interstate 196 shield, and US 31 is now going to be joining with Interstate 94 as they're getting signed for Chicago and South Bend respectively. And here is where we leave Interstate 94 as we're just getting solely signed for South Bend. And here we get another mileage sign with Niles on the top line from 24 miles away and South Bend from 35. I mean, you could throw on like Plymouth, Indiana here because that is the next major town US 31 will be passing through. But I guess South Bend is alright for a primary here still. And here in Niles, we meet with US Highway 12, and for some reason it actually has the black outline. That is strange. But US 12 is getting signed for Sturgis and New Buffalo respectively. And a ways down the road, we're now entering into the state of Indiana. So let us see what Indiana has to offer on US 31. And our first major junction in the state of Indiana is the Indiana Toll Road, or Interstate 80 and 90. And let us see what we're signed for on Interstate 80 and 90. We're now getting signed for Plymouth, which is a good choice. And now we're going to be going with US Highway 20 here, as we're going to be current with it as we head towards Plymouth. So here's where we split off from US Highway 20, as it's getting signed for Elkhart, which is a great choice. And we're getting signed for Plymouth and Indy, so that is even awesome. But our next mileage sign, we get Plymouth as our secondary from 20 miles away, and we get Kokomo from 80. I mean, yeah, Kokomo is still a pretty sizable city, and that's where we meet US 35. But you can have Indianapolis on here because we do not need a mention of that State Route 4. Like I said in the northbound video, why is that State Route 4 on this mileage sign? Here we meet with US Highway 6 in the middle of nowhere, northern Indiana, getting signed for Bremen and Walkerton. And here in the Plymouth area, we meet with US Highway 30, getting signed for Warsaw and Valparaiso. But our next mileage sign, we get Indy mentioned, so well done, Indiana. And here we meet with US Highway 24, getting signed for Peru and Fort Wayne going eastbound, and Logansport going westbound. And if Todd was doing this highway, he would probably say that 24 should get signed for Lawrence, Kansas. And here in Kokomo, we're now going to be reuniting with US Highway 35, and guess what US Highway 35 is? Hey, I know this highway. US Highway 35 is a 412-mile route as it runs from Teays Valley, West Virginia, all the way up to Michigan City, Indiana. It is what I like to be called part of the Diagonals group, which includes US 29, US 33, and US Highway 35. It is a freeway in West Virginia and Ohio, and I managed to get a picture of its southern terminus at Interstate 64. Some of the highways it meets is Interstate 64, US 31, US Highway 20, and many others. It is used as a major artery to connect northern western cities with the southeast, and sadly it has no children routes. That's a little bit about US Highway 35, and let's get back to US Highway 31. And after a short concurrency with US Highway 35 around the city of Kokomo, we split off from it as it will get signed for Gas City now, and we're going to be continuing south towards Indianapolis. And here we get a pull through just outside of downtown Indianapolis with 31 South for Indianapolis. And we're now going to be passing through the suburb of Carnival, Indiana, and we get a nice, cool looking pillar here. And now we're going to be joining with Interstate 465, as 465 and 31 are going to be going around the eastern side of Indianapolis. And just like 465 fashion, we do not get a control city for either 465 or US Highway 31. Here is where we split off from Interstate 465 as we just get signs south for the Kentucky treatment. I mean, yes, I get that we're now paralleling Interstate 65 here, but I would like to see maybe like an Indianapolis suburb or the city of Franklin instead of the Kentucky treatment. I do not like the Kentucky treatment. There is no need for it here. Our next mileage sign here in the Franklin area, we get Columbus from 17 miles away, so that's a good choice. And this is when we get closer to Columbus, we now get Seymour, Indiana from 27 miles away. And here in the Columbus area, we meet with Indiana Highway 7, and US 31 is going to be continuing south towards Seymour. In fact, our next mileage time, we do get Seymour from 14 miles away. And here in Seymour, we meet with US Highway 50, which will take you over to Interstate 65. And US 31 is now going to be continuing south towards the Louisville area. Our next mileage time, we get Scottsburg, Indiana from 20 miles away, which I think is an alright choice because it's a pretty sizable city in southern Indiana. And here in Scottsburg, we meet with Indiana Highway 56 here. And so apparently this is the part where Indiana decides to be provincial. So the first mileage sign after Scottsburg, we get Jeffersonville from 28 miles away. Okay, that is fine because Jeffersonville is still a pretty sizable city within the state of Indiana. But do you know what Jeffersonville is? It's basically a suburb of Louisville. I don't know why they're signing it 3 more times after that Henryville mileage sign. Like, you can throw on Louisville. US 31 is the one highway that is going into downtown Louisville. Like, why are you signing just your suburb? Sign Louisville, Indiana. You're usually way better than this. Why do you just want to do this? Come on, man. And then here we are going under Interstate 265 as we're going to be entering into the Jeffersonville area. And here we are going to be joining with Interstate 65 for the last 4 miles within the state of Indiana. And here we get a pull through for US 31 South, which is going to sign for 2 Indiana suburbs. No, I want to see Louisville on there. No need for both Jeffersonville and Clarksville. We're practically already in Jeffersonville. And here's where US 31 splits off from Interstate 65, finally getting signed south for Louisville. But here's the trick. They're also signing Interstate 65 south for Louisville. Well, why? Yes, I know that Interstate 65 enters into the city of Louisville as well, but they're only signing it so you can take the toll bridge to get into the city instead of taking US 31, which is a free option to get into downtown Louisville. Have 65 be signed for Nashville, and we need to get the one signed for Louisville. No need for both highways to get one city. Come on! But as we're about to cross over the Ohio River here, we get an awesome view of the Louisville skyline. And on the other side of the bridge, we're now going to be splitting into our split routes, US 31E and US 31W. And we're not going to be following 31W here, which is going to be concurrent with US Highway 60. And here we pass through the heart of Louisville, and sadly we do not get any reassurance shields for 31W or US Highway 60. Now we're meeting with Interstate 64 here, and I kind of get that we have no control cities because look at this, where are you going to put some? Plus we're still within the heart of Louisville. And then on the outskirts of Louisville, we meet with Interstate 264. Signed for the Waterston Expressway because Kentucky is allergic to signing suburbs on their 3-digit interstates in the Louisville area. And on Interstate 264, we're not getting signed for Fort Knox, which I think is an alright choice. Now we're meeting with Kentucky Highway 841, or the extension of Interstate 265, and just like 264, we just get the name of the freeway instead of actual control cities. In our next mileage chart, we get Elizabethtown from 35 miles away, and I don't know why they have a separate one-liner for this town here. Like, you can just make a four-liner instead in Kentucky. And here is where US Highway 60 finally splits off from us, as it'll head over to Owensboro to meet US 231 and Interstate 165. Now we're going to be continuing south towards Fort Knox in Elizabethtown. For our next mileage time, we get a one-liner for Radcliffe from 4 miles away. Interesting. And shortly after that mileage time, we get our exit for Fort Knox, while we just get a pull through for 31W South for Elizabethtown, which is a good choice. And here in Elizabethtown, we meet with US Highway 62 along with Kentucky Highway 61. And it's pretty funny how Kentucky 61 and US 62 are concurrent with each other. Well, we're going to be heading through downtown Elizabethtown, and this is where Kentucky 61 splits off from us, as we're just getting 31W South for... And I do not like that at all. Why isn't there a control city for 31W South Kentucky? Why? For our next major junction, we're now getting signed for Sonora from... Why? That place only has like 530 something people. Why are we being signed for that? And then here in Sonora, we're now getting signed for Munfordville from. So that's a better choice. So it looks like we're just being signed for the next smaller town we're going to be passing through. But I do like that 31W northbound control city of Elizabethtown. And then here in Munfordville, we're now getting signed for Horse Cave. That's the next town we'll be passing through. And here in Cave City, we just get a directional sign for a Horse Cave in Bowling Green. So that's interesting. And here we pass by Star Motel here in Horse Cave, so that's pretty cool. And on the outskirts of Bowling Green, we meet with US Highway 68 and Kentucky 80. They're not going to be concurrent with the highways as we head closer towards downtown Bowling Green. And here's where we split off from US 68 and Kentucky Highway 80, as 31W will be heading into the heart of town. And while in Bowling Green, we actually passed by Western Kentucky University, so pretty cool. Here we meet our child, US Highway 231, and 231 will actually take you back up to Owensboro, while we're going to be continuing south towards Franklin, Kentucky. On the outskirts of Bowling Green, we meet with Interstate 165 here, which has no control cities, except that we can see in the distance that 165 is being signed to Interstate 65. Just like how Interstate 275 in the Tampa area gets signed forward to Interstate 75, close to its terminus. And on Interstate 165, we're now getting signed for Franklin, which is a good choice. And here in Franklin, we meet with Kentucky Route 1008. That's it. That's what we literally need. And we're now entering into the state of Tennessee, and we do not get a Welcome to Tennessee sign, strangely. We just get this Portland city limits with a direction sign for Portland and Gallatin for Tennessee 109. Now we're meeting with Tennessee Highway 52 here, and we're now getting signed south for White House. Not the White House, just the town called White House. And I skip ahead to Goodlettsville because there's like barely any signage along 31W. So here we are joining with US Highway 41 in the city of Goodlettsville. Now we're meeting with Tennessee Highway 155, which I will be doing a video on here in a few weeks. It is an interesting beltway. And here now we meet another one of our child, US 431. And we're not going to be concurrent with it as 4131W and 431 all head towards downtown Nashville. And on our way, we actually passed by this buffalo statue here in Nashville, so that's pretty funny. And here we get an awesome view of the Nashville skyline before we re-merge back into US Highway 31 proper. And here we meet with 31E, and we can see that we're now about to enter into the city of Nashville. I like the cool skyline here still. And here we are, entering into the heart of Nashville. And we're now passing by the Tennessee State Capitol building once again. And here we meet with US Highway 70 here at Broadway, and I do not like how there is no shields for US 70 and US 70S. And this is where we split off from US 41 and 70S, as US 31 is now going to be continuing south towards Franklin, Tennessee, and Columbia and other places. Here we meet with Tennessee Highway 155 once again, and this time it is a secondary route instead of a primary state highway. And we can see that now our random junctions are now getting signed for Brentwood, which is a suburb of Nashville. I mean, you could also do Franklin, because Franklin is a bigger city than Brentwood. Plus, it's its own satellite city. Brentwood is, again, just a suburb of Nashville. Skipping ahead to the Franklin area, we meet with US 431 once again. And US 31 and 431 are going to be current as we head around the city of Franklin. And this is where we split off from US Highway 431, and we can see that we're now getting signed south for Columbia, which is a great choice. Here we meet with Interstate 840 getting signed for Murfreesboro and Dixon. And let us see where we're signed for on Interstate 840. You can see that we're not getting signed for Columbia still, so it looks like that on Interstate 840 it's backing up what we're getting signed for at the 431 and 31 junction. So well done, TDOT. And here in Spring Hill we meet the Saturn Parkway once again, along with Tennessee Highway 247 here. And here in Columbia, we meet the oddballs, US 43 and 412. And this is actually the northern terminus of US Highway 43. And 412 will continue out west over towards New Mexico and all those places. And here we can see that we're now getting signed for Pulaski as our next control city. So that's good. And then we just get a one-liner for Pulaski from 29 miles away. I mean, you could throw on Athens here, because Athens is the first major city in Alabama, and there's nothing that is as big as it as we're heading for the rest of Tennessee. And on the outskirts of Pulaski, we meet US Highway 31 alternate here, which again will take you over to Interstate 65, like a bajillion of the highways that we've been meeting. And here's a strange thing. I still don't know if this is like mainline 64 or if it's 64 alternate or something, or business route. But it says that 64 business route is turning left here, and it's also concurrent with us if we go straight. But if you can see here in the distance, there is no 64 shield. So, what is this 64 shield for? Is it supposed to be like 2 actual 64, or is like 64 business eastbound concurrent with us? And a ways down the road, we now meet with US Highway 64 proper, and let us see what we're signed for on 64 proper. Why are we getting signed for Elkton? I have never heard of the town Elkton, Tennessee. I looked it up, and Elkton only has like a population of 540 people. Why are you avoiding signing Athens, TDOT? You know Athens is a out-of-state city, and is like 5 times the size of Elkton. If you wanted to be provincial, Ardmore would have been a better choice than Elkton. Why are you signing a place, again, with only 540 people? There should be Ardmore or Athens, or even Huntsville, because we're going to be joining with 65 soon. This is just a stupid choice all around here, TDOT. Why are you being horrible? Anyway, skipping ahead to the Ardmore area, we're going to be joining with Interstate 65. And we can see that it's getting signed south for Huntsville. And here we are entering into the state of Alabama. So let us see what Alabama has to offer on 31. And here we split off from Interstate 65 as we're getting signed south for Athens, which is a great choice. And on our way to downtown Athens, we meet with Alabama Highway 99 here, which will take you over to Alabama 127. Here we meet with Alabama Highway 251 once again, which is also old US Highway 31, and will take you back up to the Ardmore towns. And now we're passing by Forest Street here, which is a county road in the city of Athens, and a road that I remember being on a lot when I lived in this area, back when I was a child. Here we meet with US Highway 72 here, and we have no control cities for it, interestingly. But our next mileage time we actually get Coleman from 44 miles away, so that is awesome. With a mention of Decatur too. And here we meet with US Highway 72 alternate, and I like all these blue shields for the Appalachian Highway Development Corridor. And sadly this is from a couple of years ago, because if you look on current Street View, all these shields have been changed to just the normal black shield, sadly. Except for 65 and 565 respectively. And here are entering into the city of Decatur. And here we are crossing on a bridge over the Tennessee River here. And here is where US 72 alternate splits off from US Highway 31, and US 31 is going to be continuing south towards Hartselle and Coleman. And at random junctions here in Decatur still, we're now getting signed for Coleman, which is a good choice. And here in Hartselle, we meet with Alabama Highway 36 here, which will take you into downtown. And we're going to be continuing south toward. And on the outskirts of the Coleman area, we meet with Alabama Highway 157, and Alabama 157 was requested by At Work Station, because if you take a right turn here, Alabama 157 will take you up to the Tuscumbia Muscle Shoals area. And he says that there's a restaurant called Mama Jean's. So, thank you for that request. I'm gonna have to try out that place if I ever head back to that area. And here in downtown Coleman, we meet with Alabama Highway 69 and US Highway 278. And we can see that we're now getting signed for Birmingham. That is awesome. I like that signage. I think the only reason that they're signing is because we're going to be joining with Interstate 65 soon. Oh wait, I'm wrong. On the next mileage time, we actually do get Birmingham from 35 miles away. So that's awesome. And here we join with Interstate 65, and we saw this in the northbound video, that 65 northbound for some reason gets 31's northbound control cities instead of the city of Huntsville. And here's where we split off from Interstate 65 as we're getting signed for Hayden and Corner. Hayden is where Alabama 160 goes, and Corner is just basically the place that we're already in. I do not like that at all. If you want to sign something for 31 southbound Aladot, why not Warrior? Because I know 65 is the one that will be heading into Birmingham, and it's the faster route there, so sign Warrior for 31. I do not like that corner. In our next mileage time, we do get Warrior on the top line and Birmingham still as our primary. And here in the heart of Birmingham, we meet with both Interstate 20 and 59 here. And for some reason, they don't have any arrows. So it looks like that 20 and 59 have become a surface street here. And we also meet the start of US Highway 280 and US 31 and 280 are now going to be concurrent as we head onto an elevated freeway through the city of Birmingham. And here we can see we get the Birmingham skyline once again, so that is awesome. Here we meet with US Highway 78 and US 11, and we can see that we're now getting signed 31 south for both Montgomery and Sylacauga. Here are meeting with both US 78 and US Highway 11 here, and we can see that we're now getting a pull through for both 31 and 280 here, being signed for Montgomery and Sylacauga here, so that's awesome. And here is where US 280 splits off from US Highway 31 as it's still being signed for Sylacauga. as we're getting Montgomery. And here in the Birmingham suburbs, we meet with Interstate 459, need sign for Tuscaloosa, and Atlanta and Gadsden respectively. Again, we do not need that Gadsden. I know that's for its parent Interstate 59. But I keep stressing this, if you want to sign something on 59, how about Chattanooga? No need for that Gadsden. And at Ram Junctions here, we can now see that we're being signed for Calria. So that's a good choice. In our next mileage time, we actually get Calria on the top line, and Jemison as our primary from 13 miles away. And here in Jemison, we're now getting signed for Clan. So that's a great choice. In our next mileage time, we get Thorsby on the top line and Montgomery now as our primary from 56 miles away. And then this is closer, we still get Montgomery from 36 miles away, with Verbena only being 1. Here in the city of Prattville, we meet with US Highway 82 and Alabama Highway 14 here. As 82 will take you over to Interstate 65, while we're going to be heading south towards downtown from Montgomery. Here we meet with Alabama Highway 21, and Alabama 21 will actually be the road that will take you to both US 82 and downtown Montgomery, as we're going to be heading south towards US Highway 80. Here we are meeting with US Highway 80, and we can see that we're now getting signed south for Mobile. So it looks like that ALDOT has been treating US 31 like it's an actual interstate. So that's pretty awesome. I wonder why we have no Control City for 80 westbound now. In our next mileage sign, outside of the Montgomery area, we do get Mobile from 165 miles away, even though US 31 doesn't make it there. And here in Greenville at the Alabama 10 junction, we're still getting signed south for Mobile. In fact, our next mileage sign, we still get Mobile from 147 miles away. I actually like this signage. And our next mileage sign outside, we can see that we're still getting signed for Mobile from 122 miles away. Now we're joining with US Highway 84 outside of Evergreen, and we're now going to be concurrent with it as we head towards Evergreen and Mobile. But our next mileage time, we actually get Brewton from 33 miles away. Yeah, I guess that makes realistically sense, because if you were wanting to get to Mobile, you'll probably be taking Interstate 865 anyways. So I think Brewton's an alright choice here. Plus that's where we meet US 29. Here's where US 84 splits off from US 31, as it's been signed for Monroeville. And we're now getting signed for Brewton still. In our next mileage time, we get Castleberry on the top line from 9 miles away, and Brewton from 24. Here in the heart of Brewton, we meet with US Highway 29, and US 29 and US 31 are going to be concurrent as we head towards Atmore. In our next mileage time, we get Flomaton on the top line from 14 miles away, and Atmore from 28. And here in Flomaton, we split off from US Highway 29 as it gets the awesome Control City of Pensacola, and we're now getting signed south for Atmore, which makes sense. For our next mileage time, we actually get Bay Minette as our next primary from 33 miles away. I mean, yeah, that's where we meet Alabama 59, but I think you can start signing Mobile once again. And luckily our next mileage time, we do get Mobile from a good 50 miles away, so that is awesome. Here in Bay Minette, we meet with Alabama Highway 59, and we're now going to be concurrent with 59 southbound as we head towards Spanish Fort and Mobile. And here's where we split off from Alabama Highway 59, as we can see that we're getting signed for the Mobile Spanish Fort. So that's great. And here's our last major junction, or second to last major junction, with Alabama Highway 181, and we're now getting to Interstate 10. And I wonder why it has the regular black and white arrow instead of the blue arrow for an interstate highway. And then ways down the road, we end at US Highway 90 and 98 with this crazy, ridiculous 90-98 stuff. And it looks like that LDOT does give us an end US Highway 31 shield. So it looks like at both ends there are end shields, so I like that. I always like to see that. So with that, we end US Highway 31 and we move on to the way it should be. So these are all the places that I think should be signed on US 31 and its respectable split routes. If you have any revisions, or if you want to debate on this list here, please let me know down in the comment section below, and I love to chat with you about this list. If you have a different list and want to tell me, please let me know about that too. So that ends US Highway 31. Thank you again so much for watching this series on US Highway 31. I hope you got to learn a little bit more about the highway. And I do not like how they treat US Highway 31W in the state of Kentucky and Tennessee. So with that, here are my next few highways. If you have any intersection requests for any of these upcoming highways, please let me know down in the comment section below, and I'll make sure to shout you out once these highways release. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all next week as we do the 41 rebuild.